In the late 18th century, there was a place so profitable that Europe would rather destroy it than allow it to be free. Its name was Saint-Domingue. Today, it is known as Haiti. But in the 1700s, Saint-Domingue was the crown jewel of the French Empire. On a single island in the Caribbean, France produced more sugar, coffee, and wealth than any other colony on earth. The streets of Paris were paved with profits squeezed from this land. French factories, merchants, and aristocrats depended on it. European luxury was built on it, and that wealth came from one source: enslaved Africans. By the 1780s, nearly 500,000 enslaved people labored on Saint-Domingue's plantations. They cut sugar cane under the burning sun. They harvested coffee in the mountains. They worked from before dawn until after dark, under whips, chains, and guns. Plantations stretched across the land like machines. Windmills crushed cane. Boilers burned day and night. Overseers rode horses between fields, armed and watching. Death was routine. The average enslaved person survived only a few years on the island. The system was designed to consume human beings. Ships arrived constantly from Africa, unloading new captives to replace the dead. Bodies were cheaper than care. Violence was cheaper than mercy. Europe called this civilization. Saint-Domingue was divided sharply by color and power. At the top were white planters living in grand houses, importing wine, silk, and furniture from France. Below them were free people of color, many of mixed African and European descent. Some were wealthy, some owned land, some even owned enslaved people themselves. But no matter how rich they became, they were denied full equality. At the bottom were the enslaved masses, African-born men and women from dozens of nations, people who spoke different languages, practiced different religions, and carried memories of freedom. France believed this division would keep control. They were wrong. In 1789, revolution erupted in France. The French Revolution shattered the old order with words that echoed across oceans: liberty, equality, brotherhood. In Paris, crowds toppled kings and demanded rights. In Saint-Domingue, enslaved Africans listened. They heard the language of freedom spoken loudly by people who owned them. They noticed the contradiction. If all men were born free, why were they in chains? Plantations grew tense. Rumors spread through slave quarters at night. Drums echoed in the hills. Stories passed from mouth to mouth, from field to field. Something was coming. In August 1791, it arrived. On a stormy night in the northern plains, enslaved leaders gathered secretly in a forest clearing called Bois Caïman. Torches burned, drums beat, oaths were sworn. The message was simple. Freedom would not be given, it would be taken. Within days, plantations across the north exploded into flames. Sugar fields burned. Great houses collapsed. Enslaved workers seized tools, machetes, and stolen guns. White planters fled in terror. Saint-Domingue was on fire. France responded with force, but the rebellion did not collapse. It spread. What shocked Europe most was not the violence. It was the organization. Enslaved Africans did not fight as scattered mobs. They formed armies. They marched. They adapted. And among them rose a man history would struggle to explain. His name was Toussaint Louverture. Toussaint was born enslaved, but he could read. He studied military manuals. He understood medicine, strategy, and diplomacy. He did not rush blindly into battle. He waited. He observed. He learned. When he moved with purpose. Toussaint transformed former plantation workers into disciplined soldiers. He trained them to fight European armies on equal terms. He used terrain as a weapon. He avoided open fields and forced enemies into mountains and forests. Spain noticed. Britain noticed. Both empires entered the conflict, hoping to seize Saint-Domingue while France was weakened. For a moment, the island became a battlefield of empires. France, Spain, Britain. And at the center, former slaves. Toussaint played them against each other. He switched alliances when it served his people. He negotiated when it bought time. He fought when it was necessary. European generals were stunned. They were losing battles to men they once considered property. By the late 1790s, Toussaint controlled most of the island. France, desperate to keep the colony, made a radical decision. They abolished slavery, not out of morality, out of fear. Toussaint accepted the decree, but he never trusted France fully. He rebuilt plantations using paid labor. He restored production. He governed with authority. Roads were repaired. Ports reopened. Saint-Domingue began to function again. And that frightened Europe even more, because it proved something dangerous. Enslaved Africans could rule themselves. Then came Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon had risen to power in France, dreaming of empire. Saint-Domingue was central to his plans. He wanted sugar, he wanted control, and he wanted slavery restored. In 1802, Napoleon sent one of the largest expeditionary forces France had ever deployed overseas. Tens of thousands of soldiers crossed the Atlantic. Warships filled the horizon. Cannon thundered. Napoleon believed brute force would succeed where diplomacy failed. At first, the French made progress. They used promises. They used betrayal. Toussaint was captured under a false truce. He was shipped to France, imprisoned in a frozen mountain fortress. There, far from the Caribbean sun, Toussaint Louverture died alone. Napoleon believed the revolution was finished. He was wrong. What followed was Europe's worst nightmare. Former slaves did not surrender. They fought harder. New leaders rose. Jean-Jacques Dessalines, Henri Christophe. Men who understood there would be no compromise. The French army began to die, not just from bullets, but from disease. Yellow fever swept through the ranks. European soldiers collapsed by the thousands. Bodies filled mass graves. French officers wrote home in horror. The land itself was killing them. By 1803, Napoleon's forces were broken. Ships fled the island. France had lost more soldiers in Saint-Domingue than in any other campaign of the era. On January 1st, 1804, the unthinkable happened. Haiti declared independence. It became the first black republic in the world, the first nation born from a successful slave revolt. The world watched in silence, and then it punished Haiti. European powers refused recognition. Trade was blocked. Diplomatic isolation followed. France demanded compensation for lost property, property that had been human beings. Under threat of invasion, Haiti was forced to agree. The price was devastating, a massive debt that would strangle the nation for over a century. Money flowed out. Development stalled. Poverty deepened. The message to the world was clear. Freedom would be punished. The Haitian Revolution terrified slave-owning societies. In the United States, in the Caribbean, in South America. Its story was minimized, distorted, buried. Textbooks softened it. Museums avoided it. The greatest blow to white supremacy in modern history was treated as a footnote. But the truth remains. Enslaved Africans defeated the greatest empires of their time. Not with miracles, but with intelligence, strategy, and unity. Haiti did not fail. Haiti was made to pay. And that is why this story still matters, because it exposes a fear that has never disappeared. The fear that oppressed people, once awakened, cannot be controlled. This was not just a revolution, it was a warning. And history has been trying to silence it ever since. If you want more stories like this, stories of power reversed, truths buried, and victories erased. This is Echoed Tales, because some histories were not forgotten, they were hidden.